customers have a lot of fun hitting balls and getting to know each other.
Nice.
And then we hosted a really top-notch customer dinner event the following night at Cut in the Venetian, which is a beautiful steakhouse. Definitely recommend it. Right. Really high-end everything, food, drinks, service, you name it. And I think the customers really appreciated it, and the prospects too. I mean, getting to kind of get to know each other. Nothing better than that, than having a customer sitting across from a prospect, getting to understand kind of the value of Actifio. What do we have, about 50 customers in there? So I thought it was a really, that was a great night as well.
SAP guys were there, they had a good time.
And the IBM guys were there. So
exactly.
Really good crew.
You know, as a nice segue there.
We got to talk about the beer. I know, I was just thinking about that. I was eyeing it thinking, we started with the wrong topic. It should have been beer.
Well, no, the thing is, he just got off the plane from Vmworld, so he said to himself on that red-eye back, I am not drinking for at least another month until I have to go back, until I go back to Vegas for AWS reInvent.
Exactly.
So, well, what are you going to do, Jason? Are you going to keep your promise to yourself, or what are you going to do?
Oh, I'm going to drink this beer.
Okay,
there you go.
So this is a great beer.
Then can we help you?
Treehouse, very green. One of their more exclusive beers, one of their more high-end beers. It's a variant of the green, which is one of their rotational beers, what we call, one that they offer pretty standard, pretty common. But this is a double IPA version of that. So green is a regular IPA. Then there's triple green, which is a dry hop version. Then you've got the double IPA version of that as well. So great beer. I've had it many times. It's always pretty awesome. And so happy to have you guys experience it and share it. So,
fantastic.
While I do this, why don't you guys...
All right, so I got 3 topics for today. Want to talk about Google, Xbox, or do you want to talk about microchip fabs?
Let's start with Google, because one of my topics was about Google too. So maybe I can sort of supplement what you're going to add about Google, and I'd like to sort of throw something on the table to see what you guys think.
Great. So for me, the thing about Google that I noticed just came out today is that Google is selling this thing called Titan. And what Titan is, for 50 bucks, it's one of those things that you often get for your company that has a security key built in. So it's true authentication at a much higher level than what you might get with Google Authenticator or texting or whatever. And Google, in fact, used this technology themselves and said they've never been hacked when they've had it. So for 50 bucks, you can buy this thing. There's it comes with 2 things, a USB version and a Bluetooth version. So what do you think? Are you going to go out and buy one?
I think maybe if Jason gets one for me. Be a nice gift.
So you're not feeling compelled about the security elements of this?
Not particularly. I don't think I would be sort of their target market, or I would not necessarily be the power user. I know you would, because you are a resident departmental IT guy. I know we were having some computer issues out of Vmworld. Who do we call? We call Jay.
They don't call IT, they call Jay.
Yeah, we just call Jay. Jay's
and I fixed it.
Thank you, you did. It was amazing. So maybe you'll get me one.
No. Titan. You buy it for me, and I'll test it for you and tell you if you need
install it. Okay,
yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
There you go.
What do you think? You
I don't know. I debate. You can never be too secure, right? You have all these hackers and all these problems. And I had a friend who somehow hacked, their bank account got hacked, and they somehow did some kind of just bad.
That stinks.
So then I'm kind of like, well, maybe we should have this, right? Maybe for those kinds of things, it is really that important.
Yeah, one of my airline accounts just got hacked recently.
Did
they? Yeah, and they tried to steal all my frequent flyer miles. Yeah, and I got a call from the airline, and they said, "Is this you trying to fly from JFK to Las Vegas?" I said, "No, it sounds like a lot of fun, but that's not me." So maybe this new Google device would have also prevented that.
You're right.
Possible.
Potentially.
Yeah. And speaking of Google, it's been in the news in the last several days.
Cheers.
Oh, cheers. Cheers to cybersecurity. It's been in the news the last several days from the highest levels of the U.S. government that somehow Google is manipulating the search results based on political leanings.
Really?
Yeah. So presumably they favor particular political views based on different events. And there's facts out there, and you can read it in the Wall Street Journal.
There you go.
I read it just this morning. Okay.
There it is.
And some of the examples were pretty compelling, but Google, in its corporate positioning and its mantra is that we will never be a quote unquote evil company. And so some spokespeople in the government are claiming they are being an evil company. Do you think that is actually the truth, or do you think there's some simple algorithmic explanation as to why certain things pop up higher than others in Google search? And should we be concerned about that? That all of a sudden the news we're being fed through simple search is somehow being filtered with political preference.
Well, you saw the whole Facebook thing, right? So am I shocked that this could be a possibility? No.
I know.
Yep.
You know, because we've seen it already with other companies.
Right.
So, yeah.
It does feel wrong, though. It feels a little Big Brother-ish.
I know.
You know, if they really were doing this consistently, I'm not saying they are, but let's say they were, hypothetically.
Yep.
You know, that is a little bit like they could totally choose the listings that you see. Because how many times do you click to page like 3, 4, and 5, right? So if they want to put sort of specific things that might influence your views one way or the other on a given page, you know, that could make a difference.
Have you ever heard the old adage, Jay, the best place to hide a dead body is on page 3 or 4 of Google search? Because nobody goes there. No one goes there. So,
2 pages max.
Yeah, exactly. No one's going to click on the G and then the first O, and then after that, sorry.
Right. No, I agree with you, but I would like to think they wouldn't do that. I don't know, but I would like to think that they wouldn't do that, and that that the algorithms themselves are more mathematical in nature, and hopefully just spit out whatever they spit out based off of relevancy, maybe not so much, you know, political influence, but who knows?
Right.
But there was a topic 2 weeks ago we talked about related to this, when they want to go to China and how China wanted them to censor stuff in the search.
Well, China's blatantly doing it. I mean, they will admit to doing it.
Yeah.
That's just how they operate.
Right.
Well, they mandate that Google has to do that if they want to be there.
Right.
I don't know.
I just noticed something new, though. If you click on the G and the O on the page, you'll actually go to page 1 and page 2.
I never knew that, actually. I heard him say that, but I didn't.
Is that a thing?
Hey, by the way, just going back to my newspaper, this will never send me in any direction. It's all just right there. It's not going to feed me anything. What I get is what I get. Right? So maybe print is coming back.
Don't even get me into little pre-selection articles.
There you go.
You know?
Okay, all right.
Come on. But interesting. I didn't know that. I'm going to try that next time I do a Google search. I'll click on the
I did not know that either.
That's
cool.
Hi, Jay.
Yeah, that's what they're there for. It's all works.
Geo knows, of course. Digital guy.
Geo knows everything.
Thing. He's our Google AdWords
Mr.
king
Inbound guy.
Mr. Google
there
AdWords king.
Come on, guys.
Yeah. So.
How's the beer, by the way?
It's good.
Do you guys like it?
Yeah, I do like it.
Thank you,
yes.
Gio.
Cheers.
Very
again.
nice on a Boston 90 degrees.
I know, exactly.
Well, funny you mentioned that. Treehouse today released a stout today.
Which Gio was talking about, feeling very sad that he wasn't there to get it.
But a stout typically you would associate with kind of a nighttime campfire, fall, winter beer. But no, it's 90 degrees. They'll release one.
Yeah.
Put it out there.
Just
Well, you got to get ready eventually. You got to get it ready
That's
for
true.
that fall and winter, which will be here before you know it. And speaking of which, in a future episode of Actifio On Tech, I am challenging Jason and Gio, our resident beer snobs. I went out and bought a case of Kirkland craft beer. And if anyone out there knows what Kirkland craft beer is, that is Costco's very own name brand special beer. And I want to prove to these guys, I think it's probably just as good as their snobby little craft beer that they wait 3 hours in line to get and brag to each other and trade with each other. We will know the truth on this show.
I like it.
Can't hide.
I like it.
The blind taste test.
We'll do it.
All right.
That's fun.
Fine.
But
challenge
I already know what's going to happen.
Of course
you're gonna get.
He's gonna love Kirkland.
You're gonna be a lifelong Kirkland drinker. Think all the money you're gonna
get
save.
a Costco membership.
Yeah, just for Kirkland beer. Exactly.
You're gonna save a lot of money, Jason.
All right, we'll see.
I know you guys are gonna be the mules going to Costco for us. Getting
yeah, there you go.
You're right. It'd be my pleasure.
Yeah, do some trades.
I'm gonna start buying.
I guess a Bud Light. I'll trade you. So what's next, guys?
So the next one I have is a little bit nuanced, but actually quite interesting. So we all know that we live in a world where computers and phones are such a part of our world. And we all know that what powers all this stuff is microchips, right? What you may not know is the way that we get, our iPhones or our MacBooks faster and faster is we get chips that have denser and denser, what are called circuits in them, but basically are more powerful, more stuff in the same space. And so they keep getting smaller and smaller, which is a really big deal. But what's really curious is in order to keep this curve going, we have to keep shrinking. We have to get smaller, more fuel, more power efficient, faster.
Moore's Law.
Moore's Law, you got it.
Yeah, I just took the words right out of my mouth.
It gets harder and harder to do that. And if you look at this chart, which is really interesting, look at the number of fabs that are making high-end chips. Look at the number shrinking massively
we talked
over
to the
time.
Micron guys.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
But they're not on there. They're not on the leading edge. There's a lot of people
Micron
making them.
I thought Micron's
no, the leaders are TSMC, Intel, and
I wish I could read it.
Samsung.
No, I can kind of.
TSMC, Intel, Samsung, and on this one,
Jason, will you read it?
A lot of like the cell phone providers and things like that.
No, and this one's called Global Foundries. The big thing about Global Foundries, that was the big news this week, is that Global Foundries does the 14 nanometer. That's the current sort of standard. The next thing is the smallest one. The next one is 7, then 5, then 3.
They're going to eventually
Global
get to a point
Foundries basically said, "We're done. We're out. We're not going any smaller."
Foundry.
So one of the 4 big makers have decided we're done.
Well, think about it. I mean, the economies of scale. You're getting to a zero.
Right.
It's a race to zero, which is impossible because this is a physical asset. So at some point you got to stop.
Hasn't it been this technology just getting smaller and smaller?
It does.
Ever since the chip has been invented. So the question is there going to be another technology that's going to surpass it?
But but here's the thing:
fusion power. Who knows? Whatever.
Yeah, but TSMC is already sampling in 7 nanometers, so it's there. You can get there if you want to. It's just Global Foundries decided not to. Which is interesting because AMD is a big customer of theirs on the 14 nanometer process. And so now with the 7, they have to go somewhere else. They're going to TSMC. So it's just interesting because not only are they jumping out of it, because it's probably expensive to go these smaller and smaller sizes, but it also means that we're concentrating the risk among 3 providers. If you look at it, the risks are, the providers are Samsung, TSMC, and Intel. And Intel's probably making their own stuff primarily. So the really 2 contract ones you think are probably Samsung and TSMC. So one of those guys have a problem?
Can we put a link to that document? In
I'll link to the article. There's a whole article on Tom's Hardware about it. It's just really interesting to see that change. And to your point, how Moore's Law gets more and more difficult to follow over time.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So
25 players in 2002, 2003 at the 130, and now there's 4.
Yeah, and 3 after this week's announcement. So
it's amazing how it's consolidating, but
it's a little scary.
Just how ubiquitous all these devices are.
Right.
You would think there'd be a bigger need, in a way.
Exactly.
That because of the demand increase, there would be more supply, coming out, but apparently not.
Now with a fixed wafer size, with a smaller circuitry, you can get more chips on it, so that does help you get more per wafer.
More chips, more cores, right?
But to your point, I can't believe that removing one whole foundry or one whole foundry company from this list is not going to have some impact on volume. You'd think.
Right.
I don't know.
Why don't you call your friends at MIT?
Yeah, tell them we got to reinvent something. Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe go back for that. Go back for the PhD that you always wanted.
Exactly.
They probably already have it though.
Maybe you'll answer that question.
It's like a couple months ago when we talked about DNA storage. We need like DNA microchips or something.
Hamsters
that was the next
on
thing.
wheels, but smaller.
Nice. We got to get one of your kids to be running on a treadmill.
There you go.
Her energy is sort of unending.
It's true.
It's perfect. All right. So my last one today is about the Xbox. Now, who here has an Xbox? Gio does. I do.
I don't.
You don't.
I'm a PlayStation guy.
Fair enough.
Yep.
So I am not personally an Xbox guy, but I have kids who are. So I have one. I raise my hand. So obviously the whole thing with Xbox and PS4 is that the technology is always changing, right? There's sort of the new one, and they want you to upgrade.
Sure.
And so what Microsoft rolled out recently was this idea that's a cell phone type model. So instead of buying the Xbox, you pay them a monthly fee of, I think it's $35 for 2 years. They give you an Xbox One X. They give you Xbox Live. They give you something called Game Pass. You pay $35 for 2 years. At the end of that time, it's yours.
Sounds like a lease.
It is. Well, no, it's lease because directly you give it back.
Wait, they're
giving financing.
They're giving you the console or something on your phone?
The console.
So you're leasing a console.
Yeah, you're essentially financing a console.
But do you get to trade it in at the end of the duration to get a new one?
I think you own it.
Oh, because it'll be obsolete in a year or 2 years.
It's like a laptop.
But then you start over paying $35 a month to get the next one.
For the new one, yeah.
Or you do it for $24 a month.
Oh, is this so people don't have to shell out the $1,000 up front?
It's a revenue model.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did the math because I was interested. So you pay $22 a month for an Xbox One S under this model. The equivalent cost is about $15 for Live and Game Pass, and then another $24 if you assume 2-year monthly payments. So that ends up being $39 a month. So you save some money, right? 21 versus 39. That's not bad. And that assumes you want this Game Pass thing. You take the Game Pass thing out, now you're talking 30 versus 22.
Interesting.
Not bad.
Interesting.
And the 1X model works the same, where it's about $50 a month versus $35 on the
So do you
promotion.
think that you or your kids would do that? Would
well,
pursue that offer? Or?
It's funny. One of the things that we talked about in a past episode is this whole idea of people, this new sales model where instead of buying something in perpetuity like a laptop, you just sort of pay per month. And that's just hard because it's not how we acquire things in my household. My kids want to save up and want to buy something and do that with the Xbox.
Yep.
So the thought of saying, well, you don't actually do that. You sort of have to keep paying for the next 2 years, $35 a month. They're going to forget, or they're going to
not use it for 3 months.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, think about your cell phone, right? Same model. A lot of the plans now, you actually pay a $30 monthly fee as part of your
for the hardware.
Yeah.
Right. But the difference of that is in the end, you typically own the hardware. I get more irked with these software things. They're like, whoa, we'll give you software upgrades forever. But if you don't pay, they basically take it all away. So you actually don't own anything, really, except for sort of temporary access.
Service.
Yeah, it's a service.
Yeah.
A classic company does a lot of that is Adobe. And, I'd love to get Adobe products, but I just don't like this recurring cost model.
But it seems like everything now is going to an infrastructure-free society.
I know.
We're going to just come to your house and everything's going to be empty.
Yeah, that's right. On demand, they just show up when you want
on-demand
it.
refrigerator.
Yeah, exactly.
Refrigerator as a service.
Refrigerator as a service.
No, but I tell you, it's just sort of reminds me a little bit of the zip car model.
Yeah.
Pay by the drip. You use it, pay for it when you use it. You don't
Uber?
own the car. Yeah, the Uber, the Airbnb, or maybe to some degree you're gaming. But it sounds like this is more about just locking you in.
Yeah.
Do they have any statistics yet on how much adoption this has gotten?
This is brand new. This came out this week.
Okay.
So no idea. I'd be interested to see. Cutting
Well,
edge.
I mean, you would think they did some research or analysis, think about, okay, if we roll this out, we could potentially sign X number of users. And, But
I would imagine they did all that, but they're not. They didn't publicize any of that data.
Okay.
So it's interesting.
Certain games, the folks that do that.
that is the way to do that, right? Yeah, you could offer like premium games or
or something
for early access.
Right. Yeah.
Beta,
Totally. Try to make it more appealing, if you will.
Interesting.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for this week.
All right.
If anyone has anything else.
Now just happy to be back from Las Vegas. I mean, Las Vegas takes a lot out of you.
It does. I'm a little tired right now, not going to lie.
Yeah.
But it's funny. You go from the 100-degree dry heat there to the 90-degree humid heat here, and it's just like, what? I remember getting off the plane this morning, hitting that humid air. I was just like, holy moly.
Right.
So.
The other thing I would add is now that summer, as of Monday with Labor Day, is officially over, we're all back to sort of more regular non-summer vacation schedules. So I think you'll see all of us here probably more frequently every Thursday. So definitely tune in to future days. Absolutely. And, thanks for joining.
Yeah, and the opportunity to have some special guests as well.
Yes.
Yep. And enjoy enjoy your last few days of summer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And come back re-energized, recharged, ready to go. To me, it's sort of like the start of a new year.
I know, it is.
Yeah, it is. I agree. Yeah, I agree. All right, well.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.